Hello, everyone. Nigel here with Polluted Mainstream. And since I'm an American content creator and I consider myself to have an alt-right perspective, I wanted to talk today about Donald Trump and whether I like him and whether I think he's a good president. Now, the short answer to that question is yes. And already I can hear the objections being like, what about this? What about that? And I'm going to get up to all the what about thises and that's later in the video. But I want to remind everyone that here in America, we basically have a two-party system where you have two choices. And the other choice was Hillary Clinton. And certainly Donald Trump is going to be better for identitarians or alt-righters than Hillary Clinton would have been. Even the other Republican candidates, I can't think of another one that I would have preferred over Donald Trump. Maybe Rand Paul. I think he has a little bit more integrity than Donald Trump, but honestly, I'm not really big into libertarianism, and I really don't think Rand Paul had the kind of personality that could have gone against a Hillary. Now, there's some objections to Donald Trump in the alt-right community, and I think they fall into basically three main categories. I'm going to go over them in just a second. And then after that, I want to talk about what Donald Trump really needs to do so that people who consider themselves identitarians or alt-right would be happy with like voting him in for a second term. So the first main objection to Donald Trump, I think, from the alt-right would be that he's like a corporatist. He's into, he's himself has a corporation and he's into helping the rich. Now, that's true, but I don't think it's such a huge problem because the way he's planning on helping corporations is through like more small government. In other words, he's going to cut taxes, he's going to cut social programs, and that'll help corporations to make bigger profits. Now, that's not such a great thing because I think ultimately we want small businesses. I think that would be something that would be further the cause of freedom more than to have more power in corporations. So it's not exactly the right direction, but it's a lot closer to the right direction than Hillary Clinton would have been. Donald Trump is fighting globalism with corporations now, but he's doing it more through incentivization. Like he'll pay companies to stay in America instead of really punishing them for going away, which is, I think, maybe what I would do or what I would advocate doing. But that's okay as long as he's having more money come back into America and more of the companies stay in America. I think that's a good thing overall. I think in the end, corporations are going to show their globalist and liberal tendencies. They're going to become unpopular, and Donald Trump's going to maintain his popularity. And he'll be able to fight against them in that way. So I don't really think that Donald Trump being a corporatist isn't that big of a problem. The second thing I think that the alt-right objects to is that he condemned the alt-right. Now, he condemned the alt-right in the wake of Charlottesville, which was a situation where a girl got killed. The media was calling for answers. I think he kind of had to do something. So he did condemn the alt-right and the alt-left. And I think that's funny. And he said, the funny thing he said was he's like, there's bad people here. There's bad people on many sides, many sides. And the funny thing about that is like, what is the many sides? There was, I mean, even anyone on the alt-right or left would say that there's only really two sides there that were causing problems. And they were the extreme like LARPers of the left and right. There was no like Yakuza. There was no like, who else? There's no like Sierra Club there. There was no other sides than those two. So I think the many sides comment was a little funny. But he did condemn the alt-right and the alt-left. And it really makes me think that Donald Trump doesn't understand the alt-right and the alt-left. Because the people that were causing problems at Charlottesville were like the LARPers of the alt-right and alt-left, being Antifa and the neo-Nazis. So the left is not defined by Antifa. Antifa is like kids in their 20s who want to like go out and be communist revolutionaries. They're not really serious people, and neither are the neo-Nazis. On the outside, they look like a little bit like the alt-right and the regressive left, but if you actually examine them, I don't really think that they have any principles. They just want to go out there dress in their costumes. Like the neo-Nazis dress up like Nazis, and the Antifa dress up like, in their black all black and black helmets and like with their communist armbands on and stuff like that. I really just think it's like teenagers and college kids who want to get out there and live action role play their favorite revolutionary heroes from history. So I don't really think Donald Trump understands what the alt-right really is. He just looks at neo-Nazis and thinks that that's what they are. But that's okay because he's an 80-year-old man. He's basically a business Democrat, and I don't think that he really wants to look into it that much. But when the social tide begins to turn, and I think that identitarianism becomes more acceptable, I think Donald Trump will latch onto it, because that's all Donald Trump really ever does, is he latches onto populism. See, Donald Trump is a business Democrat. He's not a conservative. And the reason that he says he's a conservative now is because he can see the turning of the tide. So I think Donald Trump he's not a dyed-in-the-wool anything. He's not going to stick to his principles. He's just going to go with where the population is going. So I don't think the fact that he condemned the alt-right means anything. I think he doesn't really know what the alt-right is. And then once identitarianism becomes more popular, he'll just latch on to it like he's latched on to conservatism. The third main criticism of Donald Trump is basically just that he is conservative now. He hits all the conservative talking points, and he appeals to like the Reagan era conservatives, which, accept a lot of the premises of the left. Donald Trump will say stuff like, we want immigration, but we don't want like illegal immigration. So that's like a very conservative stance. It's not an alt-right stance. But again, Donald Trump is not a conservative. He's a business Democrat. And the only reason that he didn't run as a business Democrat is because Hillary already had that locked up. So he had to do something else. And there was no other conservative that really could, that had that kind of cachet and that kind of force that he did. So he just went into their niche and he just took it over. So I think that it's not really going to be that big of a problem, because conservatism is something that's dying out with like the baby boomers. And in the next election, I think there's going to be a lot more youth than there's going to be baby boomers influencing the vote, at least as far as the right goes. So I think we don't really have to worry about Donald Trump's conservatism, him being like a dyed-in-the-wool conservative that'll go down with the conservative ship. No, he won't do that. Donald Trump's motivation is his ego. Donald Trump wants to leave a legacy where, like, future generations will look back at the golden statues of Trump and, like bow down in reverence. So Donald Trump's not going to go against the populist, sentiment. He's not going to do that because he doesn't want to become unpopular. So all the reasons that Donald Trump would be objectionable to the alt-right are really not that, they're not that damning to me. They're not that worrying to me, because Donald Trump's just a tool. He's a tool of the population. That's why he's a populist. He'll do what he thinks it takes to stay popular and stay in office. Now, here's the two things that I think Donald Trump needs to do that. Number one, I think he needs to build the wall. Now, the wall is not exactly something, that I think is going to be effective. I don't really think it's going to stop immigration. I think they'll find ways to get around the wall and so on. But it's really just a symbol. It's like an obelisk to monoculturalism. I think the world will look at the fact that we built a wall and say, well, the Americans are serious now. They're not just talking about it. They're not just saying platitudes about how we're going to slow down immigration. No, they're actually out there constructing things to stop immigration. And whether or not that'll actually be effective, I don't think that really matters. I think that the symbol is enough. So I think he needs to go ahead and build the wall like he promised, because that'll show people who are identitarians or even conservatives that he's serious about slowing down mass immigration. The second thing I think he needs to do is to cut social programs. I think he needs to start with Obamacare, but keep on going after that, because basically social programs are just in-group, out-group wealth distribution. And I think if he cuts those down, then he'll show that he's serious about restoring Western values and Western power in America. So as long as he does those two things, he'll be fine. And he's just a tool to move things along. He doesn't have to be like a hero. He doesn't have to have all your same ideals for you to support him. And so I think that's why like Richard Spencer and Jared Taylor and others who are like alt-right leadership supported him during the election, even though he's was echoing conservative talking points, and he's not really a conservative at all. But they knew that he was going to do what they thought was going to be best and was going to move things along and make things better for identitarians to take over in the future. So what do you think, guys? Do you think Donald Trump's a good president, a bad president? Do you think Hillary would have been better for the identitarian cause? Or do you think maybe like one of the other Republicans like Ted Cruz or Rand Paul would have been? Leave your answers in the comments below. We'll have a nice discussion. Until then, you have my customary farewell, which is see you next time.